We've all got career aspirations and dreams, but sometimes navigating that journey between our current role and the one we would like to do next can be quite tricky. Hello, my name is Helen Bryant. I'm the creator of Growth Inc. and this week's lesson is all about what we need to do in order to get that next role and be promoted. The starting place for getting a promotion is mindset. You have to recognize that just doing a good job in your current role is not normally enough. That you need to be able to be what I call next job ready. And that is you are doing your job absolutely at its top of its performance, that you are adding value in other ways, and that you don't wait to be found. And that means we need a plan. So the starting point is always to get a good view of what's the destination, what is the next role that you want. And this can take time to find, especially nowadays as organisations are much flatter. Back in the day when we had nice clear hierarchies, people were very much in climbing up that ladder, but it's much more difficult to do now. There's a very good podcast called Amazing If, and Helen and Sarah, the presenters of that, refer to it as a squiggly career. We have to learn to adapt to different circumstances, and that makes getting promotions now a lot more tricky than it was in the past. So the starting point is to get clear on what that next role or the option of roles might be. And when I say clear, what I mean by that is, what is that role? What do you do in that role? What are the roles and responsibilities? What are the skills that are needed? What is success like in that role? So if you were to be the recruiter, the decision maker for that role, what are they looking for? And the clearer you can get on what that role is, the easier you will find it to create a plan to achieve that transition. Ways of doing that, top tips, go talk to somebody who already does it. Have a coffee with someone and really try and understand the nitty gritty. What do they do? What are the challenges? What do they do that makes a real difference, so that you get a clear image of what it is you are heading towards. It might be you're looking at several roles, so do the same things, because if you're going to make that effort and make that move, you want to know that you're going to be happy in that role, that it's aligned with what you find interesting, what you like doing, what's going to challenge you, what you're going to learn from, and will move you to achieving your overall career goals. So once you're clear where you're going, the next thing to do is to understand what's the gap from where you are now. And a good way of thinking about this is breaking it down into what's the knowledge gap you may have. And knowledge is understanding just the detail. It might be about the market, it might be about customers, it might be about how the business works and the processes that work in that area. The second thing to look at is skills. And skills break into two sorts. So there are hard skills. These are technical skills. So, for example, you might need to be an Excel ninja in this role, or there might be an in-house system that you will need to get competent at. Now, obviously, some of this you can learn in role, but some you could just start getting better at before you get there. The other part of the skills is soft skills. These are people skills, so the abilities to communicate, to collaborate, to connect well. And these are skills that are in enormous demand in the recruitment world and within internal recruitment and assigning promotions. So it's really worth thinking about this side of your performance as well. And moments to really think about making work are, what are you like in meetings? Can you run a great meeting that gets decisions made? Do you participate in meetings well? Are you somebody who moves things along? The third area is behaviours. Behaviours are the way in which you are. So there's obvious behaviours like you're on time and that you're organised and people can rely on you. But another thing to look at is thinking about your organisation's values. So Your vision and mission of your organisation is explaining what you're trying to achieve, and an organisation's values is explaining how it wants people to behave within that organisation. And this is a great way to kind of assess your skills and your attitude, because it's describing what good looks like. So the thing to do in assessing the gap is then to look at, against this potential new role, where are you now? What are you doing well? What's already ticked in the box? What could you do better that would make you the best candidate and job ready for achieving that goal? And to think of it in terms of knowledge, skills, hard skills and soft skills, and behaviours. A great book to read when you're thinking about what does good look like and evaluating your skills is 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. It was written back at the end of the 80s by Stephen Covey. And I remember in my first job when I was on the graduate training programme for Procter & Gamble, going on a course where this was introduced to us. And we had in fact, we were given a set of tapes. That's how long ago it was that we had the tapes. In fact, I think I still have those tapes. I have nothing to play them on, but I still do have the set of tapes. And in the 7 Habits, Stephen Covey really expresses the skills and behaviours of leadership. And I've read that book now probably 4 times, and it keeps coming back to the same things. I think it's really stood the test of time. It would be a really good book to read. Comment, I'll link it in the information below, but well worth a read. So once you know the gap, the next thing to do is build a plan. Now, one person it would be really worth having a conversation before you start creating your plan is your manager. Your manager's roles and responsibilities include developing you. Also, they will, if your promotion is within your organisation, they will probably have some form of influence over that decision. If they're not making it themselves, they definitely will be influential. So getting their view and getting them on side is really important, in that they can help you understand the gap. They can help you understand whether they think it's a good move. They might not be right. It's about your career and managing your career, but they are important to, it's important to understand what they think. It's important because then roles are recruited in 2 different ways. Sometimes people are just placed in roles. Some dark arts happen within an organisation. HR meets with the senior managers of the organisation and suddenly somebody moves. So it's good to know what the process is. But the second way is obviously people are interviewed and there may be some kind of assessment centre. So another good thing in talking to your manager and getting that clarity of where you're going and the gap is you're starting to build the evidence for that recruitment process when you eventually get to it. And as you learn and develop in doing things, you'll get some great case studies or examples of what you're doing that makes you the best candidate and job ready. Okay, so when you're creating your plan, be specific, really think on the outcome and think of the moment in which you want to get right. That clarity really helps you move towards it and know when you're successful. Be willing to seek feedback so that you're constantly learning and constantly improving. And keeping in that really conscious mindset will help you improve this, build the skills that you need for the next role. Now this can take time. Promotions don't tend to come along quite when we always want them. So trying to understand the time frame that's involved and then really putting it to use can help you. As you develop that plan and you're using that time, I think a mindset to adopt that really helps you be at your best so that you are performing well above what is needed in your role is to think like a proactive problem solver. So if I think back to my corporate days when I was leading large teams, when I think back now to who are the people I still remember, they are the people that in times of complexity and change, when you know the rubber really hit the road, were the people who just stood up, took accountability and made a difference. And what they were on the whole doing is identifying things that weren't working well and just solving them. So they'd come to me and say, this is not good, This is what we think we should do about it. What do you think? And I would just go, yes, get on. It's so welcome. As opposed to people who come to you and tell you the problem in great detail, but have no solution for it. So thinking like a proactive problem solver, and where you can really make a difference is looking at the whinge points within your team, that cross-functional relationship that's not working well, that process that just is inefficient at a certain point. Those sort of things are things to really jump in and say, what can we do to get this to work better? And if you lead those, they're great practice, opportunities for practice, but also you will make a difference. You're demonstrating leadership. I am a complete and utter believer in leadership at all levels. Leadership is about mindset, behaviours and skills. It is not about a job title, and in fact that often stops people leaping out and demonstrating leadership skills because they think that's something the leadership team, the job role, should be doing. Leadership should happen at all levels. And if you are that proactive problem solver and have that mindset, you automatically will demonstrate great leadership skills. A couple of other tips that helps you stand out. Being on your game means you're prepared. So if people will be evaluating you at certain points, that's when they get their impression of you. And there obviously are moments normally when you come together with other people, so in meetings. So always be prepared, be on top of your work. You cannot be complacent when you're heading for a promotion, because any slip in that could be the thing that undermines your performance. So have your system of how you manage yourself and manage your work well nailed down so that you are prepared and delivering your objectives. The next thing is avoid office politics. So it's the opposite side really of the being the proactive problem solver, but sometimes the negativity in a team or the frustration points, it's all too easy to slide into that office politics, the gossip. Just don't go down there. You need to be demonstrating that you are ready for a next role and you're above such things. And that can be often very important to the people who will be making the decision, that you show that maturity in your leadership approach. And be a guide to others. As you're sort of going out a role, you should be well on top of how you do things. So people who are relatively new in role or are still learning, this is the time to help them, offer feedback, coach them, help them get better. These are, again, great skills for your next role, which will normally have more influence and more responsibility. So the more you can practice in your current role with your team colleagues, can really make a difference. So think of yourself as a guide and really share your knowledge that you've amassed with others so that it stays within the team and doesn't leave the department with you. Now, as I said, it can take time for this to happen. So having your plan and frequently referring to it will keep you on track, but it will also allow you to adjust. There's one more thing to do, and that is connecting with other people, finding people who can help you. So a real strength of a modern day career is somebody who has a strong internal and external network. So spending as much time understanding within your organisation how it works and who your cross-functional colleagues are and what they do and what's important to them. First off, it really helps you with what I would call organisational savviness. You just understand how the organisation works and how decisions are made. But secondly, it builds strong relationships, and people who can build strong relationships with other people are normally valued because they work well with other people, but also it just makes it fun and interesting when you build relationships with other people. So the places you need to be looking are cross-functionally. Who are the people that you need to know what they do or perhaps could help you, and also in seniority within the organisation. So in flat structures, different leaders and senior managers have different influences. So who are the senior people that you need to connect with? Now, we're working in a world at the moment where it is all a bit more difficult because so many of us are working remotely. But I think looking into 2021, we will never be back in the world we were back at the beginning of 2020. Many organisations are talking about a more hybrid way of working. So coping with this virtual world in which we now work, I think is just something that is here to stay. So when it comes to doing all of this in a virtual world, there are even more challenges because a lot of the happenstance and the sort of things you can just do because you can go and see someone, you can't do in the same way. So when you're thinking about this, it's exactly the same as the things I've just shared, but you just need to be more intentional. Proactive in having a virtual coffee, proactive when you recognise maybe when we're back in meetings and collaborating that these are the moments you need to make work even more than you did before, because they're the moment when you will see people and connect with people. So I think it's just exactly the same things, but the luck and the happenstance has been removed, so it just really reinforces the intentionality you need to have towards your plan. There is a download for you to help you think about this and put it into action. It's just down here. Please click on the link. If you found this YouTube lesson helpful, please subscribe. It helps other people find us, and ring the bell. You know what to do in order to get notified of each and every lesson that I release. So please join our community of people who want to thrive in their career.